Hello everyone. Let's reset. What does reality look like? Some of us need to answer this question crystal clear. We do not wish to delude ourselves or live in fantasies. But, I insist, do we really know what reality is like, or do we only have representations of it?
The previous video explained how models of the world allow me to evaluate and, thus, respond simply and unequivocally to questions such as, is this the right path? What is correct? Is this water drinkable? Is this chair well built? Etc. All the answers depend on the model of the world. If the model we use doesn't work, then I have to change it. If I use a faulty map, I get lost, disoriented, shipwrecked, and I can even become miserable and unhappy. We all live in the same reality. Yet despite this, we don't see it in the same way. Each individual has a unique appreciation of the territory. Because, for the individual, there are no realities but perceptions. And from those perceptions we make our model, which is a map that interprets reality. We already mentioned that defective models constitute a serious ontological danger. If a map was constructed using fantasies and desires, then it will be very far from reality. The map will not be faithful to the territory, and, as I mentioned before, we will get lost and capsize. There are no facts, but interpretations. Facts can be interpreted differently depending on the lens through which they are viewed. But each person has their own ability to interpret, or, as is more common, they don't interpret anything at all because the individual lives in a state of interpretation. Well, they are only capable of handling the maps of the world they have been given since childhood. The inauthentic drone never questions or explores those models given to them by revelation. But the model tool given to them by Das Man generally doesn't work properly. They are either ossified or used to form more cogs that make the city work. So, when one stumbles, it's necessary to change the model. And there are two alternatives. You can develop your own or find something superior, with better interpretations. Some people have changed the old models, abandoning them for ones that better represent reality. And this happens constantly. We have several cases. For example, the model of the atom. Leucippus and Democritus, Greeks of the 5th and 4th centuries BC, were the first to imagine an atomic model. Leucippus said that matter was made up of small particles, which his disciple, Democritus, called atoms, a word that means indivisible. This model was quickly forgotten and discarded. It had little use or foundation. It wasn't until the beginning of the 18th century that Dalton revived the principles enunciated by Leucippus and Democritus, who stated that matter is made up of atoms, small indestructible and indivisible spheres. He created his model by making observations of reality, of chemical transformations. Thomson discovered the existence of the electron, with which he proposed that the atom is a sphere of positive charge in which electrons are embedded, like raisins in a pudding. Then, Rutherford discovered the atomic nucleus. The model undergoes another transformation. There is a nucleus, and small negatively charged particles hovering around it. And the model continued to change based on what was learned about reality. In 1913, Bohr improved the atomic model by highlighting that electrons revolve in orbits. Exploration improved the model, and the old model was discarded. The same thing we would do with any useless tool. And, today, the atomic model continues to change, as more discoveries about reality are made. Another model that changed to better represent reality was that of the solar system. This model illustrates how the collective is reluctant to change its archetypes, because it feels that they change reality itself. The collective, Das Man, possesses an incredible inertia toward paradigm shifts and goes to unsuspected extremes to prevent the abandonment of what is known. Giordano Bruno affirmed that the universe was infinite, centerless, and full of inhabited worlds like ours. He also argued, like Copernicus, that the Earth revolved around the Sun. Some people, in their transcendent search, find interpretations that lead them to glimpse truths far removed from common experience. Changes in model can be traumatic and surprising in and of themselves. Seeing reality differently provokes fear in those unaccustomed to exploring, and they settle for the models given to them. Giordano Bruno dared to improve his model of the world. He crossed a door and observed complex celestial machinery. He learned about Copernicus's new astronomy, which presented a new model. The sun was the center of the solar system. Because of his model, Bruno was persecuted, imprisoned for 7 years by the Inquisition, and finally burned at the stake in 1600. His crime was trying to improve the model of the cosmos. The geocentric model of the solar system, which places the Earth at the center of the universe, dates back to ancient times, and was formulated in detail by Claudius Ptolemy in the 2nd century AD. This model reflected everyday experience and was integrated with philosophical and religious ideas that considered the Earth to be the center of creation. For over 1,000 years, the geocentric model dominated Western astronomy. But after observing and exploring reality, Nicolaus Copernicus, in the 16th century, dared to present his heliocentric model, in which the Sun occupied the center of the system and the planets, including Earth, revolved around it. This idea gained strength over time, with the telescopic observations of Galileo Galilei and the laws of planetary motion formulated by Johannes Kepler, consolidating a new understanding of the cosmos and marking the beginning of the scientific revolution. It must be said that models of the universe are currently changing, thanks to observations made by space telescopes. With these examples, we have a better understanding of how models of the world improve, thanks to exploration and reflection. Reality tells us when a model is wrong and when it is closer to reflecting what is really happening. Finally, let's look at the example of an evolutionary model based on real-world manifestations, some of which are fossil evidence, which refers to the remains or traces of organisms from the past that have been preserved in the Earth's crust. These fossils provide valuable information about the history of life on Earth and are one of the main pieces of evidence for evolution. Comparative anatomy shows us the similarities and differences in the structure of organisms, providing evidence of the evolutionary relationship between species. Molecular biology demonstrates that all living beings share the same genetic material, DNA. Similar genetic codes, and basic processes of gene expression, suggesting a common ancestor. Comparing the sequences of homologous genes, related genes, in different species reveals the evolutionary relationship between them. The more similar the sequences, the closer the evolutionary relationship. We constantly use models or maps of various kinds to navigate the world around us. In ancient times, maps were a very useful tool. They showed roads and maritime trade routes, where precious treasures could be found. They were also required to show strategic military points. They were used to divide regions and delimit borders. These tools gave their owners great power, because they could see farther and better than other men. The success of a voyage or victory in battle depended on a good map. It has always been dangerous to have a faulty map. And if the model doesn't work for me, I have to change it. We all live in the same reality, but we don't see or feel it completely. And from those perceptions we make our model. But do we see everything? Do we perceive everything? Our perception can be flawed because of fantasies and desires. We must accept reality as it is, not alter it, because the map will not be faithful, and we will get lost. There are no facts, only interpretations. We want to see justice where there is none. We want to see meaning where there is none. So, we must change the model of reality. Let it be clear, the models of the world are tools. It is useless to use the wrong tool. That would be a mistake. But in addition to using the wrong tool, we can make the mistake of misusing it. It would be suicidal to consult a 17th century map in the 21st century. It is evident that we will be blind when navigating or traveling the paths of the world. We must be careful with models. They are tools, not objects of reverence. The model is something that serves us, not an object of worship or submission. Legend has it that Jesus was harshly criticized by the Pharisees for healing on the Sabbath. Well, working on the Sabbath was prohibited, and this precept is part of the Torah and Jewish tradition. It is considered a sacred day, a day of rest and worship. Jesus' response to the criticism was clear and concise. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. With it, Jesus responds that the instrument is at the service of the user, and not the other way around. Jesus is saying, in essence, that the Sabbath law was not given as a burden imposed on human beings, but as a benefit. Jesus emphasizes that the law, which is an instrument, must be at the service of life, and not the other way around. It's clear, models are tools. They are not objects of reverence. Would we put a hammer and a screwdriver on an altar to worship them? Not only is there the problem that sometimes some tools are given homage, reverence, submission, etc. False models are also used. These are created mainly by fantasy, such as astrology, numerology, tarot, palmistry, etc. They encapsulate pseudoscientific or esoteric beliefs. Mainly, because they cannot accept reality as it is. Some reasons why these models are adopted may include the need for meaning. Many people seek in these beliefs a way to understand the world, feel protected, or find comfort in the face of uncertainty. Cultural tradition. Some pseudoscientific practices are part of a cultural or family heritage that goes unquestioned. The confusion between science and pseudoscience. Technical language or the use of instruments, such as charts or diagrams, can give these models an appearance of legitimacy. Distrust of science or authority, and many others. They simply don't like reality and seek a more comfortable one, even if it's more twisted. Maps engendered by fantasy simply cannot be explored. They exist only in the imagination. Religion is a tool that tells you where you come from, what you should do here, where you will go, why the world is the way it is. It's a tool that is idolized, that doesn't change. And they never know, in life, if it works, because the verification of what is claimed comes after death. It's not enough to accept what is offered to us, it's necessary to contrast it, test it, verify it with reality, and update it when necessary. A good model of the world must meet at least 3 fundamental conditions. It must not contain logical contradictions. It must conform to the facts of the world, to reality. It must allow us to act in the world effectively. Let's remember, we need a good model of ourselves and of the world to achieve salvation. Let's end with a question. What is the best model of reality? Obviously, the one that emerges from meticulous exploration.
Some people who are engaged in science or those who do not renounce to accept reality. They check the maps or models of the world. And if it doesn't work, they change it for another one. This tool is not revered or idolized. Well, that's all for now. Thank you for your attention.